Well, hey there, you're on the internet, I have some free time, and welcome to the Triple N Network, where all you newbie nib nerds can find all the news you'll need. Let's look at an ink today, shall we? Now, today's ink, by Noodlers, I don't know what the proper name for this is. It could be American Red Rattler Eel, or it could be Red Rattler American Eel. I've seen it both ways. But anyways, it's pretty much Noodler's red, but eel. It's very vibrant red. Here it is compared to some other reds. So that's red eel right there. See, it's kind of rich, kind of dark. And there's Nikita. These are all Tardif tests because I was bored. Schaefer Script red. Diatramentis Carmine red. Red Dragon. Oxblood. Gentle Grenade. Rouge Hematite. Jeherbon, Rose Rouge, Diatramentis Orchids. Okay. All the tests were done in this Hero 616 with a fine nib. Let's check out the chromatography. As you can see, there's some potential for at least a bit of water resistance, but it's in this like fuchsia pink thing. And then it sort of tendrils up in more basic red, and then a darker red, and then a dark red right at the very edge, with this mildly orange thing going on at the corners. Okay, check out the paper. Clairefontaine, 90 grams per square meter. 18 seconds to dry, which admittedly is a bit long for a fine nib, but this is Clairefontaine, and this is an eel ink, which means it's lubricated, and that does generally mean that the dry times are going to be a bit extended. But I didn't feel that it was overly wet. You know, I didn't feel like it was just pouring out of the pen, so that was nice. Yeah, no bleed, feathering, spread. Yeah, dry time was the only major complaint I had for this ink on this paper. Did dye the paper, and what's there is lighter, but it's still pretty there. And if you look, you might be able to see the paper started coming apart. So, yep, I really scrubbed it, and it's still pretty there. Next is Rhodia, 80 grams per square meter. 11 seconds to dry, which again is kind of long for a fine nib, but it's Rhodia and it's an eel. No bleed, feather, spread, very well behaved. Felt like the water test was pretty alright. I mean, that's fairly readable, it's fairly there. And I feel like this red is pretty vibrant. It's not neon red, but it's still noticeably red without hurting your eyes. It's pretty bold, but not obnoxious in your face bold. Next is Tomoe River Paper, where I still feel like, even though this ink, or this paper tends to make ink pool and therefore make it a bit darker, it's still very clearly red. 14 seconds to dry, which is a bit long for a fine nib, but consider the paper and consider the eel. I feel like that water test really isn't too bad. It's consistent. It's there. It's not patchy. It's clear. And it's Tomoe River Paper. Now this is the old, classic, only now realizing how wonderful it is, 20-pound copier paper. 5 seconds to dry, which is fantastic for this ink. Water test is great. It didn't feather, it didn't explode, it's still fairly there, it's still fairly dark. And it didn't bleed through. Who knew that would be a big deal someday? Here's Mead Notebook Paper, where it's still fairly vibrantly red, but it's lost all shading. 3 seconds to dry. But there's feathering and there's spread, and I said to near illegibility at times because here in second... God, my dogs are freaking out. Here in seconds it gets pretty feathery. Water test is pretty nasty. And even on a fine nib, I mean it's eel and it's mead, but still. Here's Moleskine paper, where it dried almost instantly. Yeah, bleed, feather, spread. Hoping I can get this on camera. Come on. It's there. Like, look, it's spread. Yeah, not great. The water test, it's explodey, it's feathery. And look how much bleed through there is there. And this is a fine nib. I mean, it is an eel, and it is moleskin, but I feel like I've had to make that excuse for every single one of these tests. I mean, like, oh, but it's... Still, all that being said, it's not a bad ink. It does have some water resistance. It's not the best water resistant red that I own. It's not even the best water resistant red from Noodlers that I own, but it's well behaved. It works in those pens that sometimes just need that extra little something to make it go because it's lubricated. It's vibrant. It's a decent ink. So for your consideration, Noodler's Red Rattler American, some combination of those things. American Rattler Red Eel ink smorgasbord. I don't know. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching.